Hey guys, it's Friday. Happy Friday. I hope you all had a great week and have even a better weekend. And we have a lot of stuff to discuss in the news, the top 5 news items of the day. And as always, if you like this program, be sure to like and subscribe. The first story is something I've been preaching about for a long time concerning the so called homeless. I remember the whole thing really got the term homeless in the 80s with Ronald Reagan. The Reagan homeless. It was a way for the left to try to blame Reagan for these bums that would hang out on streets. Now, we've always had bums. There was a famous Skid Row in Los Angeles. I mean, that went back probably the 20s and 30s. You had hobos and those type of characters, but it really increased in the 1980s. And the reason is, well, why? What is it? And the left thought, oh, because people can't live. How can they live under Reagan? It's just cutthroat capitalism. But when you looked at the data and you actually looked at the people that are homeless, there's not that many people that are there for financial reasons, meaning they're good people, they have good characteristics, they just can't find a job and they're trying real hard, they're putting all their applications in, but then they got to beg for money to live. And that doesn't almost doesn't happen. I'm not saying that it never does, but in general, these people fall into, well, basically 3 categories. The first category are what I would call like the temporary homeless, or what we used to call the hobos, the vagrants. Sometimes you get younger people in this category. They're just kind of wild. In the hippie days, you had this. They didn't have necessarily a home, but they drive in the car and they hang out places, maybe sleep on the beach and bum rides with people, bum places to stay, that type, right? So we've always had that type, and that's because that's the lifestyle you want to live. I wouldn't like it, but some people think it's, a little bit of romanticism about it, especially if you're young, then you settle down. So you have that type of group. But the biggest 2 groups it came up with is the number one group is drug and alcohol addiction. And again, we've always had the drug and alcohol issue, especially the alcohol. Skid Row, that's where you have the bum, the drunkard, and when he begs for money and he gets your money, he just takes it to the liquor store and drinks. The wino, that was the cliche one. But then what happened is we had an uptick in drugs, especially after the 70s. The drugs became more normalized and or became more popular. And then we started to see a lot more drug addicts added to the alcoholics. And we have that issue now with like fentanyl or meth, where people, they just get strung out on drugs and all they care about is to get money to shoot up, and they will beg, steal, whatever to get the money to do that. So you have the drug and alcohol people, and that's increased. But then the third category that we started to see in the 80s was insane people. And what happened previously, if someone was mentally ill, they can't function in society, they would be in a mental asylum. And I'm not saying mental asylums are great places to be because you're around other crazy people, but at least you have a roof over your head, you get some food, and you have some basic care. And yeah, there were some abuses, don't get me wrong. And there was a movie in the 70s, it was first a book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack Nicholson, if you watch that, is an excellent movie. But it kind of fed into the idea that the people that were in mental asylums really shouldn't be in there. They were just quirky personalities. They were just different than other people, but they shouldn't be forced to be in a hospital. They should be free. Why are we so judgmental? Let these people be free just because they're different than you. And it gave that type of feel. And the people at these hospitals, the like nurse Ratchet and the whole staff, they were evil to try to keep you down. And I think that was an exaggeration. And what we found is, yeah, for every free spirit that could just live out in the public, you had probably 100 people that couldn't live. They just can't really function. And these people, they ended up on the street because they can't deal with the welfare to get housing. They just don't know where they are. And I don't know if you've seen these people. I've seen them. It's just sad. They're on the street corner. They're just screaming. Obviously, they're insane. And this is mostly because of a brain problem they have. And, I don't know why we treat brain problems different than any other physical problem, right? If someone had broken legs, you say, oh my God, let me get you to the hospital. You need your legs fixed, right? Well, these people have a broken brain and they need a treatment. And it's cruel. You're not being a good person for keeping someone that can't really understand out on the street, exposed to the elements. Sometimes they freeze to death. They're vulnerable to other criminals. It's a sad situation. They should be taken, yes, against their will, but they don't have a will. So they should be placed in some institution where they can get the proper care for just humanitarian reasons. And then, as a side benefit, we don't have to deal with it, right? If you're walking down the street with your sweetheart late at night in some city, you don't want some crazy psycho screaming on the street corner, pooping in his pants. You just don't want that. And you don't want drug addicts begging for money. You don't want that. That lowers the quality of living for everyone. And so I've often said, at least with the crazy people, we should take them off the streets. And again, they don't have a will. And it looks like Donald Trump has tapped into that. I was really surprised. And Donald Trump is saying here, let me bring this up. President Trump's new executive order will essentially overrode the laws that closed the mental asylums in the 1960s, allowing states once again to involuntarily reinstitutionalize people deemed endangered to themselves or others. And yes, this is always prone to abuse, but you could have people to overlook this. But the other thing, you got to have a happy medium, right? You don't want to throw everyone that just has quirky ideas into a mental asylum. But the standard should be, if you're on the street corner screaming obscenities, causing problems, obviously there's something wrong with you and you don't have a right to do that. And so I 100% support Donald Trump on this. The homeless situation and how the homeless act, I think people on the right and the left are fed up with it. In fact, I've known many people, one person really close to me, he's a liberal on every other position. But when it comes to the homeless, he's basically Himmler. And he's in the San Francisco area. And because he thought different until he lived around them. It's not fun. A lot of them are aggressive, violent. They stink. They cause problems. We shouldn't have to put up with vagrancy as a society. You don't have the right to do that. No, you don't have a right to shoot up drugs on the street. No, you don't have a right to sleep on the street. No, you don't have a right to puke on the street. No, you don't have a right to scream on the street or beg for money. What the hell? Where's your business license? You can't set up a business like that. You don't have that right. You don't have a right to have a tent city, right? We have zoning. You don't do that. Now, what happens? So let's look at each of these scenarios. With the mentally ill people, like Trump was talking about, they should go to the hospital for their own good and for the good of society. And drug addicts, we should not tolerate them. They should be arrested and they should be put in either rehab or a prison and get over your drug addiction. I don't want to get into the whole debate about drugs, libertarianism, or whatever, but this is different than if you want to shoot yourself up in the privacy of your own home. I don't know. I mean, you can make an argument, I guess, whatever, kill yourself. But we don't want you on the streets doing that. Once I was in Las Vegas on the Strip, I couldn't believe it. They've since cleaned it up. This just a couple of years ago, I saw some bum on the street literally shooting up in his arm. And it's like, no, we don't need to see this, right? And you don't have a right to beg for money on the street or solicit funds on the street. So anyone that has is begging money with a cardboard sign, they need to be arrested and sent to jail. Now, again, I'm not cruel. So if you're really down on your luck, I would have facilities that are pretty safe, small but safe, where you can have a cot and you could have basic food. So you're not going to freeze to get death. You'll have some food. But no, you don't have a right to disrupt the rest of us. And I hate these people now. I despise them. And once, and some of them are just pure fraudsters. I remember 4 years ago, Sash and I, we were in Fayetteville at the Walmart there on what they call Mall Street. And I pulled up. I had like a clunky old 2008 car, and this brand new car pulled up. Some brown Hispanic looking people, dad, mom, and kids got out. Dad went into the store, and mom had her two kids, and she had this sign on the cardboard begging for money. I'm like, what the hell? You're driving a better car than me. And then she proceeded with her kids as props. Sometimes they use puppies and they sit on the street corner and they get money that's tax free. Now that should be illegal. We don't need this stuff. So anything to stop this homeless craziness, I am 100% for. It's not good for them, and it's not good for society. So I would like to totally clean it up. Any tent city needs to be bulldozed down. They need to be arrested, or they need to shape up. That's what needs to happen. So that was a number one story. And I think Trump will get a lot of people, even on the left, may really appreciate that. Because even these shit libs, I tell you what, if they have to live around the homeless, they do not like it. All right, the second story is kind of funny, a little bit of karma. I always like to see karma a little bit. But there was a app called T. And I never heard of this, but the T app was a T dating device. It was a woman-only mobile application launched in 2023. And it was designed to enhance safety in online dating. And so what it was, to prove that you're a woman, you had to load your image of yourself. And it was basically, it turns into really what it is. Women, they can get on this platform and they can defame men that they don't like. It's like a big gossip circle where you can gossip about men that you don't like and say horrible things about them. So it's supposed to be about safety, but it was just trying to run men down. And I wouldn't have created this app in the first place. I think you have some potential legal problems doing this sort of thing. But they did this. And the ironic thing, it was hacked. It was a hack on 4chan, and they dumped all the information. So all these bitter hags, now all their information is out there. Now they're doxxed. So the whole idea was, to say if you're on a date with a woman and she doesn't like you, let's say she thought you should have spent more on her at the restaurant or something, and then she could go there and she could say, hey, I'm going to go on this app. I'm going to try to ruin this guy's life by making these fake claims about him, and hopefully this will harm him. That's really what it was about. And so it's so funny now, these little evil hags, they got doxxed. So I guess turnabout is fair play, but that was a big news. The T app was hacked. All right, so that was the second big news of the day. Number three, this is a funny story. She has me blocked. Candace Owens. I don't really dislike her, but she's not exactly the smartest woman. I mean, some of that's for obvious reasons. I have some issues with Nick Fuentes, but when he kind of debated her, he easily destroyed her. And she's one of these people, she believes, I think, every conspiracy theory. She's one of those types. I believe she could be a flat earther or one of those, or just all kooky. And she got this idea that Brigitte Marcon, Macron's wife of France, is actually a man. He was born a man. So this is like Bridget's actually a transgender, I guess. And so Macron, they're suing Candace Owens in a Delaware court, because I guess that's where Candace Owens has her company, her LLCs in Delaware. And I guess Macrons are willing to go to Delaware to sue her for defamation, which, I mean, you're the president of France. You think they have better things to do than worry about some crazy YouTuber and her ideas. But they're going to try to sue her. And here was Candace Owens' reaction to this. Here.
You were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood, figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine. For whatever reason, to phone, by the way, like I said, we'll get to the bottom of it, right? That is what discovery is for. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You're probably hoping, this will go away and at least we'll say we sued her. We'll say we went after her. She'll probably file for this to get dismissed. I'd like to make it to discovery. I think that we owe that to the world. Anyways, you guys, we are revolting against this. We're revolting against the perverts that run the world. And I want to be very clear here. I count you among them. I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. On behalf of the entire world, I will see you in court.
This is a strange thing because I think there are pictures of Brigitte when she was younger out there, and she's an old woman. It's a weird situation because she was a teacher of Marcon, and then she ended up dating him. They have a big age difference. It's one of those weird things where the woman is way older than the man. But so Candace says she wants to make it to discovery. Okay. The question is, will Candace win this lawsuit? And I think she will, just because in America, and rightfully so, but it's very difficult to sue a public figure. So a public figure to sue is very difficult because we have the First Amendment. Because what you have to do in the United States, you have to show that the statement is true and you knew it wasn't true, and you're trying to hurt these people. And that's a tough thing because Candace, even if they end up showing that Brigitte is indeed a woman, a biological woman, Candace lawyers could say, well, okay, Candace was wrong, but she really truly believed it. The Macrons, do you guys have any proof that she knew the truth but was lying to everyone? And that's a hard standard to come up with in court, to be honest. So in the United States, unlike France and some European countries, it's easier to sue for defamation. But in the United States, not only do you have to show what you said wasn't true, but that you knew it wasn't true and you were trying to hurt someone, right? So let's say like I accused a public figure, Hillary Clinton, of being a lizard person. Well, number one, it could be true. It could be true with Hillary. So that'd be the first thing. But more important, they would have to prove somehow that I knew it wasn't true and I was just saying it to hurt her. And then she'd have to show how she was hurt. What are her damages, right? And that's the other problem. So like how was Macron damaged? He's still president, so it didn't hurt him that way. So what is it? It hurt his little feelings. Well, big deal when you're a public figure. Believe me, I'm just a minor public figure. I understand what that is. You just can't sue for people saying mean things about you. So I think, I do think she's a woman, but I don't think they will win just because of the standard in America is too high. But that was pretty funny. All right, let's see the number 4 story, and this is a story that I think Trump wishes would go away, but it's not. It's the Epstein controversy. And Trump has stuff to say about it here. So let's take a look at this.
Big difference. Is that on the table?
Todd Blanche is a great gentleman. He's a great man. He's a great lawyer. He's got a great heart. But he's over there now. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I certainly can't talk about cards.
Can you trust what she's telling him? She's a convicted.
This is they're talking about pardoning Maxwell so she can testify. And it turns out the Department of Justice just spoke with her today. And she gave like 100 names already. So it's going to be interesting. Epstein's clients. And she didn't even request a pardon yet.
He's eager to get out of prison.
Well, he's a professional lawyer. I think he's been through things like this before. But, you should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't. Thank you very much.
So what this is Trump is frustrated because he is mentioned in the FBI Epstein documents. I have no idea, no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean Trump was involved with pedophilia or anything like that. Epstein was fairly well known in the Manhattan circles. I guess all the rich, they kind of pal around with each other. And in the 90s, Trump was friendly with Epstein. But again, that doesn't mean that there was something nefarious going on with Trump. As Trump said, he never went to the island. He knew Epstein. In fact, I think that's how he met Melania, through Epstein. So he knew these people. But as I brought up today on X, it was Rosalind Carter in the 70s. There was a famous picture of her. She met John Wayne Gacy of Chicago. Remember the clown killer, the homosexual that killed all those boys, molested them and put them under his basement? That guy, he was a Democrat and he raised funds for Democrats. And Rosalind Carter came in for a photo op. She met him, thanked him. They took a photo together. But that doesn't mean that she was endorsing him. She had no idea what he was doing. In the same way, yeah, I'm sure Trump had ties to Epstein in social circles in Manhattan, but that doesn't mean that Trump was involved with anything. And I'm not trying to simp for Trump because I'm critical of Trump in many cases, but you got to keep this fair. Again, Trump, as he said, I never went to the island. Why don't you talk to Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton went a lot down there. And so did the former president of Harvard and some hedge fund managers. So I think that is a pretty fair thing to say. And Maxwell, she just gave up 100 names of people linked to Epstein or his island. And she didn't even evoke any privileges. I think she's looking to get a better deal, maybe get a reduced prison sentence. And I think that's okay. I'm okay with that if we get some more better information about that. So again, I do think we should go after the clients of Epstein, people that potentially may have slept with underage girls. Someone like Bill Clinton may be in that category. But I don't think President Trump's in that category just because in the late 90s, he knew of Epstein. And, one of the things that Trump does, he had a great memory for people. He probably still does. Sasha, her cousin, met him once on the golf course, and her cousin's like no one famous. And then years later in a restroom, this is before Trump was president and everything, but he was still famous. He remembered the guy. And so Trump has that ability to remember people. And so Trump has always been very friendly to everyone. So just because he was friendly to Epstein in the 90s doesn't mean he approved of Epstein. In fact, later on, Trump banned Epstein because he heard the rumors about Epstein. So, I think the Trump administration, they need to get ahead of this more to satisfy the base. And it looks like they're trying to do that. So that's the number 4 story. And let's see here. Let's see, the number 5 story here is, some more woke stuff. I'm not going to show you the whole preview here, but they're coming out with a new Batman movie where I guess Batman is as an Aztec and he's fighting the evil Spaniards. And it's the usual stuff of, these poor Aztecs just living in harmony with nature. And they were killed by these savage Spaniards, when it was like opposite. The Aztecs were bloodthirsty. Other tribes in Mexico feared them. There was mass murder. They actually committed genocide, slaughtered tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And I think we're really getting tired of this whole woke stuff in movies, and we're still seeing it again. And it looks like we're seeing it now in Aztec Batman. Sasha just recently saw the new dinosaur movie, Jurassic Park. I didn't really want to see it. She went on her own because she likes that. And she said, she was entertained by the dinosaurs, but she said, man, talk about every trope, right? You have the girl boss, you have the smart black scientist that's better than everyone, right? You have the brown couple, and then the villains were white. How about the weak, cowardly people? White men. Yeah, we're getting tired of this. It's really a blood libel. So more of this shit coming out, and I'm not really surprised. So guys, those were the top 5 movies I have of Friday. Again, number 1 was Trump wanting to put the insane people that are on the streets in mental asylums. I support that. Number 2 was the T-App Act. That was an act these angry hags could defame men that they didn't like and dox them. Well, these hags got doxed themselves, so it's kind of funny. Number 3, Candace Owens was sued by Brigitte Marcon. That should be entertaining to see what happens there. Number 4, we have the Epstein Drama, where Trump looks like we may get more information out of Maxwell. And Trump, again said, they should look at people like Bill Clinton or the former president of Harvard. And the number 5 story was the new woke Batman cartoon, where Batman is the innocent Aztec fighting the evil conquistadors. So, guys, I hope you have a good weekend. It's a fun show. Again, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.